Good evening. I am CEO of Center on Halsted, and I come to you tonight with a broken heart and tears in my eyes, but with hope to see so many people gather as community to hold each other up in our time of need. We wear purple ribbons in the sign of anti-violence, that we are peaceful people. We also have resources that we have passed out to share with the community. Please share those with your friends. Water is available on each end of the floor, and we have therapists on the floor if you could raise your hand if you are in need of one. We also have space on the second floor if you need time alone or with a counselor. We have a banner outside the front door for all of you to write your reflections. The banner will go to Orlando's Community Center to pay them tribute and honor. At this time, I welcome Mona.
Good evening. You know, we're going to build the Center on Halsted. This is what we imagined would be a place of gathering, a place of community. This is a very sad day right now, but it's a place where we can all gather and claim who we are as a community. So thank you all for coming here. Let me first welcome Korey White. He will do a welcoming hymn.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to feel, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, that hour I first believed. Through many dangers, trials, and snares, have we already come? 'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home.
Thank you, Korey. Okay, thank you. Please, I'd like to welcome next up to this stage is Ronen. Ronen will present a statement from our presumptive Democratic nominee for President of the United States, Hillary Clinton.
Just a moment before I read this statement. Our hearts are all breaking. I think it's important to note today that although hate exists in the world, and violence, and anti-Semitism, and homophobia, it does not rule. We are the majority. There are more of us than them. And I think if we come together as we're coming together now, we will improve that. So I just wanted to be able to say that. And I'm very honored to be able to read a letter from Secretary Hillary Clinton. Dear friends, while I regret I cannot be with you in person tonight, please know that I am with you in spirit as you gather at the Center on Halsted to honor the victims of the attack in Orlando, their families, and the first responders who did everything they could to save lives. This was an act of terror. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies are hard at work, and we will learn more in the days ahead. For now, we can say for certain that we need to redouble our efforts to defend our country from threats at home and abroad. It also means refusing to be intimidated and staying true to our values. This was an act of hate. The gunman attacked an LGBT nightclub during Pride Month. To all of you in the LGBT community, please know that you have millions of allies across the country. I am one of them. And we will keep fighting for your right to live freely, openly, and without fear. Hate has absolutely no place in America. Finally, we need to keep guns like the ones used last Saturday night out of the hands of terrorists and other violent criminals. This is the deadliest mass shooting in the history of the United States. And it reminds us once more that weapons of war have no place in our streets. This is a time to stand together and resolve to do everything we can to defend our communities and our country. In solidarity, I am sincerely yours, Hillary.
From the Lakeview Presbyterian Church to light candles in remembrance for those who were killed and injured.
So we wanted to start this vigil with a blessing for peace that I have written, borrowing one line, your line that you will say from Emanuel Miranda's beautiful poem from yesterday. So when you hear me say the words, "Help us, O God, to remember," your response will be that hope and love last longer. While this blessing is being offered, 103 candles will be lit to remember those who died, but who are not forgotten, those struggling to recover yet in the hospital, their families and friends who are just beginning to grieve. So I'd ask now that 4 or 5 of you that are near the front to come to the candle and light your candle and send it out as the prayer and blessing continues. You can begin now, and so we can get that started. In a minute, I will ask all 103 of these to be held high. So move the light through the crowd as quickly as you can. Let us pray. God, whose name is known in many forms, we invoke your blessing here as we call for peace in the midst of great pain. When sorrow has clutched our gut and twisted hard, when images swirl, imprinting horror deep into our marrow, help us, O God, to remember that hope and love last longer. When we pause to celebrate, thinking progress is on our side, and instead we are punched with the full force of hate and vitriol, help us, God, to remember that hope and love will last longer. When even as we gather, the names of those senselessly killed linger, when even as we gather, we lift them to your eternal care, help us, O God, to remember that hope and love will last longer. When parents and sisters and brothers and children are grieving, when shock inevitably arcs towards deep grief and loss overwhelms, help us, oh God, to remember that hope and love will last longer. When we long for peace, knowing that justice must come first, when all the words in the world do not seem to matter, help us, oh God, to remember that hope and love will last longer. When justice and action look like steps in a parade, or flinging wide the locked doors of hearts and minds, when justice picks up the pace and blooms once again undeterred by madness, help us, O God, to remember that hope and love will last longer. When the sun sets on our sadness and sorrow and rises again, pushing us forward, when peace one day bubbles up and makes its lovely self known in change and life and love, help us, O God, to remember that hope and love will last longer. Hear now, O God, the names we know of loved ones lost. So we invite you to share names aloud as the remaining candles are lit. Names that you know of people who were lost or family members who are grieving this day. Those holding candles, if you would hold those high right now. And one more time, help us, God, to remember that hope and love will last longer. Help us, oh God, to remember that hope and love will last longer. Help us, oh God, to remember that hope and love will last longer. Amen. Can you blow out? Yeah.
Next, I'd like to welcome Alderman Tunney of the 44th Ward and Alderman for the Center of Halsted.
Good evening. I'm here with my colleague, Alderman Raymond Lopez, and I was sorry I was not able to go to the Vigil last night. I was out of town entertaining family members in Michigan. As Tico said and Mona said, it's no coincidence that our vigil tonight is at the Center on Halsted, the LGBT center that welcomes all, without reservation. Many of us here tonight have spent years, even decades, building the vision of inclusion and respect for all, regardless of race, color, gender, religion, or ability. Please take time to remember the victims and families in Orlando by recommitting to a peaceful dialogue where we can all live together in a free society. Let us reaffirm our vision to a culture where each person is able to contribute, without bias, their values and goals for a better life for themselves and their community. June is Gay Pride Month, and I ask all Chicagoans to stand with the LGBTQ family, to end violence throughout our city, and participate in solutions for a safer, more inclusive city for us all. Thank you.
I'm Alderman Raymond Lopez. I'm one of the 5 members of the LGBT caucus. I'm one of 2 openly gay aldermen in Chicago, Latino aldermen in Chicago. This is a particularly heart-wrenching week for many of us. Not only was it an assault on members of the gay and lesbian community, but it was an assault on the Latino community as well.
Right.
a terrorist act that was a double hate crime on both Latinos and LGBT. And to my Latino brothers and sisters, not only in Orlando, but in Chicago and throughout the entire country, allow me to remind you that this is not our culture to fall prey to this hatred. Our culture is built on faith and family, compassion and caring, and no amount of bullets, no amount of hateful words, and no amount of bigotry will ever set our community, our heritage backwards. And on behalf of all of them,
next, I'm going to welcome to the stage our mayor of the city of Chicago, Mayor Rahm Emmanuel.
I want the city, and I want the country to see the answer. When there is hate, we in the city of Chicago bring love. Where there is intolerance, we in the city show compassion. And where there is fear, we in the city stand for hope. This was not a single attack on one venue, but it was an attack on our common values. It was not an attack on one city, but on our sense of what a community is made up of. And we as a city, the city of big shoulders, the city of big hearts, will stand shoulder to shoulder with the LGBTQ community and the Hispanic community, not only in our city, but across this country. There is no more powerful and no more eloquent response to the hate we saw and the hate we woke up to than to the entire city this month on our Gay Pride. Come together as one city around a shared common sense of tolerance and inclusion, where everybody is counted. Everybody has something to contribute. Because the way you respond to hate, it may leave you speechless, but it does not leave you powerless. And our power is to respond to what happened at Pulse by showing the entire country a sense of when a community comes together and shares a common set of values and a common sense of who we are. Do not leave room for hate. Open our hearts to love. Do not leave room for intolerance where we are called for compassion. And it reminds me that on the Jewish faith, when you get married, in a day of joy, you shatter the glass to remind ourselves of how fragile life is, and even in moments of joy. Something was shattered, but from that, we can build something stronger. Let us commit ourselves as a city to our sense of values that we are brought us together in this room, brought us together to build this center. send a single message with a single comment of what tolerance looks like and what tolerance feels like. And that will be the most powerful response to hatred.
Thank you, Mary. That's Stacey Ann Shannon. Woohoo! Have you seen her before? She's a spoken word poet, performing artist, LGBT rights, political activist, and girlfriend's going to gift us with a poem.
A poem in solidarity with those breathing still in Orlando. In 1997, I came to the shores of these United States of America because it wasn't safe for me to live as an out lesbian in my own country, Jamaica. I remember landing alone, uncertain, in a tiny city called New York City. Within weeks, I fell shore into the arms of other feminists and activists and other LGBT people who believed in a global fight for freedom. It was here, in this country, I learned to use my words, my voice, to speak out against bigotry and prejudice and injustice and discrimination, wherever it happens, whenever it happens, to whomever it happens. I can hardly believe it's been 20 years. So much has happened. In the wake of our collective struggle, LGBT people in more and more countries can now marry the love of our choosing. We can openly hold public office, hold hands, adopt children. We are more secure in our jobs. Many of us are completely accepted by our communities. So effective has been our march towards progress. So steady has been our faith in the power of change that we were just a little bit amused when the radical right began its new wave of shenanigans in Mississippi and North Carolina and Tennessee. We were certain good sense would prevail in this country. We were sure the world was changing faster, and we knew we would eventually win. Gun violence has never been part and parcel of the LGBT agenda. Semi-automatic weapons were never ours to argue. Even after our president, our first black president, begged the nation 13 times after 13 mass shootings, after he begged us 13 times to address this issue of gun control. As a group, it never became our fight. But when the unthinkable news of this lone gunman's actions rippled across the airwaves, when in this, the 14th shooting since 2008, when almost 50 of us became the target of one such weapon, it's really 100 and more of us became the target of one such weapon. We were shaken from our complacency, jolted from our rooted reverie, shocked to watch the deliberate marching back of progress. After 20 years of safety, my lesbian body is awake to the terror of what my black body, my woman body, my immigrant body has always known. These barbaric ideologies are only getting bolder and bolder by the proverbial hour. As a whole person, I have never been more aware of how race and class and religion and sexuality and hate can converge into some bizarre concoction of violence and rage and prejudice, and the vulnerable target of an unsuspecting crowd, these young men in a dance club in Orlando were simply looking for a space to love and live and be safe and be celebrated inside the borders of the country, whose history whispers the tradition, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. We are all just yearning to breathe free, in public or private. I have always wanted to follow my own heart. I imagine that's what they wanted too, these young people.
That's all they wanted, to be true to the drum-beating human inside their own chests. Their deaths will always be remembered as senseless. In the horror of their quiet breaths, let us begin the celebration of their lives by acknowledging that these words are never enough. No matter what we say here today, it will never be enough to tell the story of their deaths or their lives. There is always more to say about the departed. These young people whose lives will eventually become fodder for political rallies and ideological arguments. These bodies laying still, not dancing, not smiling, will join the too long list of victims of mass shootings that happened in America. Too often this happens in America. Too often it has been happening in America to the most vulnerable among us. The most vulnerable among us pay the greatest price, and the rest of us are left to ask the question again and again and again, where does this healing begin? In the face of 49 lives snuffed out, how do we make sense of such a senseless thing? The answer is what it has always been. We pick up the pieces of each other. As always, we turn left, we turn right, we reach behind us, and we find each other. And we continue to find love. Against these crazy odds, we should revel in the unfaltering ability to be human, to hold each other, to heal each other. In sorrow, we should weep and smile and celebrate the fact of our own breathing. If there was ever a year to wave that rainbow flag, if there was ever a year to wave that rainbow flag, this is it. change in these gun laws and discrimination laws. Let us fight for more spaces where all of our bodies can be safe. Let us push back against these unjust laws that seek to turn back the hands of time. In memory of these nearly 50 dead, I dare you to live even louder, to be even more proud of who you are. Let us together lift our voices, our spirits. Let us shout out so everybody on this planet can hear the awesome power of the human heart to choose love, to choose love. I dare you to choose love.
The shooter may have singled out an LGBT bar where Latinos frequented, but his motive was to harm Americans. And sadly, this will not be the last attack on our fellow Americans here at home. But those who contemplate future attacks should know that the violence they perpetrate only deepens our resolve to fight the hatred and intolerance terrorism represents. My condolences to all the victims and their families, and to all Americans who mourn. Thank you.
So we've made numerous references to it was a gay club, a Latino club, but also these were very young people, very young. So we welcome Sol Flores of La Casa Norte and Thierry, who is a Center on Halsted program participant. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not an elected official and I'm not an amazing poetess, but what I am is loud and proud to be an ally. I'm an ally of the LGBT community. I'm an ally of Muslims. I'm an ally of immigrants. Yo soy LGBTQ. Yo soy musulmana. Yo soy inmigrante. Yo soy dominicana. Every single day, like all of you who have dedicated your lives to community development, I have the honor of walking hand in hand with families and youth who are homeless as they
name is Terry Dudley. Partner Jasper Horn. We are here to celebrate the lives of our brothers and our sisters, 50 of whose lives were ended by hate. I think it's important to acknowledge the fear that has gripped our community. Someone came into our safe space, our brave space, and they took our pride. While acknowledging this, we must also not let this fear consume us. Today, I listened to my peers share their feelings about the current climate in our country that has contributed to the mass shooting in Orlando. I shared their feelings of sadness, brokenness, and disassociation. I also shared their feelings of defiance. Because I won't let this take away for what so many fought for me to have before. What this has taught us is that hate is still very much real in 2016. What this has also taught us is that we must be vigilant in our efforts to fight hate in this country. We need to demand better policies when it comes to gun reform and rehabilitation to those of who are living with mental illness, which drives them to this thought process. We need harsher and stricter punishments for those who seek to harm us. And due to our current climate, I think we only have 3 responses to the level of hate like this. One is education. We need to educate ourselves on different people's beliefs, and instead of using their religious beliefs to mask our own fear. Instead of spreading hate, we must work harder to educate people about our LGBT community. We must fight injustice and hate at every point. And lastly, and most importantly, we must stand together. We must not make this our downfall. We must show them that this only makes us stronger. We must demand more of America, this country that is truly for all people, no matter your race, your sexual orientation, or your gender identity, or religious beliefs. We are here, we stand with you, and we will not be divided. Thank you.
give up the identities. The other option was to create a new safe space for myself and to transcend the noise. So I chose the latter. I chose to transcend the noise. And today, standing before you as a queer Muslim, I ask you, my family, to do the same. Let us transcend the noise. Let us transcend the attempts of other groups and other voices and politicians and hate speech who want to use this tragedy for their own agendas. Those people who want to divide us and to make us turn on each other instead of towards and embracing each other. Now, some of you may or may not know this, but for Muslims there is a call to prayer. It rings out 5 times a day, and Muslims are supposed to answer that call. Now today, I ask my Muslim family to answer another call. Condemning extremists and extremism is the first step. The second step is that, dear Muslim family, it is time. Man, it is time to welcome and embrace all LGBTQ Muslims in your community, into your homes, into your mosques, into your lives. My girlfriend Nabila Rashid and I are answering that call. We're holding a community iftar Tuesday night, tomorrow night, and we call on all community leaders, Muslim, non-Muslim, gay and straight, to attend the iftar, to break fast with us during this month of Ramadan, and to begin a better dialogue so that we can move forward. Because we gotta love better, we gotta love harder, because the more we all unite, the stronger our voices and our family will be. Thank you.